Good day, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Condolences are pouring in as an absolute Métis legend has passed away. Ray St. Germain passed away on Tuesday in Winnipeg after battling Parkinson's disease for a number of years. While the Métis singer-songwriter was known as an award-winning recording artist and producer, Ray also had over 600 appearances on television, many as the host of the long-running series Big Sky Country. He was also an author, a radio host, and even had a foray into politics. Manitoba Métis Federation President David Chartrand today calling Ray one of the nation's treasures and a true legend in his own right. Ray's wife announced the passing of her husband last night. He was 83 years old. Born in Winnipeg in 1940, he first hit the road at 18 years old. Ray released his first self-titled album back in 1968. His music career took him around the globe over the years. In 2006, Ray even threw his hat into the political arena, running unsuccessfully for the federal Liberal Party. In 2010, he was inducted into the Canadian Country Music Hall of Fame. Earlier this month, he was honored with the renaming of his childhood street to Big Sky Country Way. A funeral and celebration of life will take place on Saturday, July 6th. We will have more on the passing of Ray St. Germain on our newscast at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Ontario's police watchdog is investigating after an OPP officer fatally shot a man at Anishinaabe Park in Kenora, Ontario on Tuesday. According to the Kenora, Ontario Provincial Police, they responded to a call for service at the park shortly after the noon hour yesterday. In a press release, the OPP says during the course of the investigation, one person suffered injuries and was taken to hospital by ambulance. Video posted on social media shows a man standing in front of the burning building. He appears to be holding knives in each hand. More than a half dozen OPP officers, including one aiming a gun, are visible. The OPP says it notified the province's Special Investigations Unit, which has invoked its mandate. As a result, the OPP will not be able to provide any further information. Special Investigations Unit has not provided any more information on the incident as they are trying to notify the next of kin. Sadly, that incident comes just days after an event at the park on National Indigenous Peoples Day to commemorate a monumental anniversary. 50 years ago, First Nations youth occupied Anishinaabe Park, demanding housing, employment opportunities, and return of the park lands to the original stewards. APTN's Sierra Bettens brings you that story.
In the summer of 1974, dozens of First Nations youth, led by the Ojibwe Warrior Society, headed by Louis Cameron, launched an armed occupation of Anishinaabe Park. At 20 years old, Sally Skeed was one of them.
It was a hard time for our people at the time. There was a lot of violence towards our people at the time, and a lot of the young people were tired of it.
On National Indigenous Peoples Day, she is among the surviving occupiers being honored on the 50th anniversary of the occupation. That summer, on the lands now known as Kenora, Ontario, the occupiers voiced their demands: better housing, employment opportunities, and an overhaul of the Department of Indian Affairs, to name a few. They were also calling for the return of the Anishinaabe Park lands they claimed were illegally bought and sold by the city in 1959.
And this Anishinaabe Park, that used to be our land. They used to have an Indian house here, and all the Anishinaabe people would come here in the summertime, and they would have ceremonies, healing ceremonies.
Eddie Mandaman was 10 years old, attending a nearby residential school during the occupation. He recalls the abuse he endured worsening at that time.
But I consider my time for that was I was part of the warriorship. Although we weren't part of the occupation here, but we were still held prisoners in the residential school, and because of the park here, they made our lives miserable for the summer.
The occupation brought issues faced by First Nations in Treaty 3 to center stage. One of them was the mercury contamination of Grassy Narrows First Nation. Over half a century later, the issue persists, with around 90% of its members displaying symptoms of mercury poisoning.
The only thing we're asking for is equality. That's what I want, is equality. To be able to be treated like all other Canadians.
50 years on, the occupiers say much has changed for the better.
If you really look at Kenora, we actually came a long ways. Over the last 50 years, we took care of some of the houses. We got a lot of First Nations living in Kenora. We have a lot of Treaty 3 police officers that are now homeowners in Kenora. They hired me as a new Indigenous Relation Officer to help with the Truth and Reconciliation. So I think the movement that this present council has is very proactive.
In his lifetime, Mandamin hopes he'll witness the return of the park lands to their original stewards, the Anishinaabe of Treaty 3.
One of my things is to actually do the land back, because this was the actual first land back initiative in North America in 1974, the very first one. And this should be celebrated with that historical content of that land back happened here.
Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Renowned Métis visual artist Christy Belcourt is the latest person to be featured in Canada Post's Indigenous Leaders series. Earlier this month, Inuk singer and filmmaker Alyssa P. and renowned Anishinaabe water rights activist Josephine Mandamin were also honored with stamps of their own. APTN's Fraser Needham has more.
Known as a visual artist whose work often features beading, a new stamp featuring Christy Belcourt was unveiled at Ottawa's Wabineau Centre on Tuesday morning.
Obviously, it's a great honor, to have my work recognized, but at the same time,
she says it is about recognizing the Métis artistic community as a whole.
I always think about community and how many people are working in community that don't get this kind of honor, and how many people deserve recognition for the work they do, how important community is, how we all really hold each other up.
The gala event was attended by a number of prominent figures in the Métis community, including esteemed writer Maria Campbell, who spoke about the effect Belcourt's art has had on her.
Christy has inspired me for many years, inspired me as a writer and as a woman and as a grandmother. I have a house full of her art, and each day that art feeds my soul and my life with stories, songs, ceremonies, and memories of the women in our communities and in my life.
Métis National Council President Cassidy Caron also noted the role Belcourt's works have played in revitalizing Métis culture.
Christy honors traditional Métis beadwork, and that style that makes us all think of our ancestors and where we came from and the stories that our artwork can tell. And now all Canadians have the opportunity, if they haven't already, to meet someone who has kept our beautiful culture alive and growing.
Honors aside, Belcourt says artists must also never forget the role they have as agents of social and cultural change.
I think artists have a unique way of looking at the world. We have a responsibility and a way of speaking to truth that we have to have courage in our art, and so therefore we can't hold back when we need to say things.
Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Big congrats to all of those getting their faces on the stamps. Well, the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion is now complete. We're taking a deeper look at the project. That story and more coming up after the break. Welcome back. 6 First Nations and a Métis group are partnering with energy infrastructure giant Enbridge to bring natural power to over 100,000 homes. On Monday, Métis Nation Saskatchewan and the Pasqua, Cowessess, Agecoutay, White Bear, and George Gordon First Nations signed on with Enbridge's 7 Stars Energy Project. 7 Stars will include building sustainable wind energy structures southeast of Weyburn. The facility will generate 200 megawatts of electricity, enough to power 100,000 homes annually. Right now, the cost of the project is unknown. Over the summer, there will be talks about a final budget set to be announced next year. The goal is to have the facility operational by 2027. The twinning of the Trans Mountain Pipeline is now complete, which will now transport close to 1 million barrels of bitumen from the tar sands in Alberta to Burnaby, BC. They'll then be loaded onto super tankers destined for Asian markets. APTN's Tina House takes a closer look at the project and those that say it's just a matter of time before a major accident happens.
Since the twinning of the Trans Mountain Pipeline was first announced, controversy has followed from large-scale protests and rallies with thousands of people.
Justin Trudeau promised. He promised a new relationship with my people. He promised that this project could not move forward unless it was done through a vigorous and thorough review, which he broke. He is a liar. He is a liar. He is a liar. This is what democracy looks like.
Others went to extreme measures, like some land defenders chaining themselves to work vehicles, to some high-profile arrests of Grand Chief Stuart Phillip and Tsleil-Waututh Elder Ta'a.
I'd sooner die than have Kinder Morgan come in here with their poison. I've walked the tar sands. I've seen the sickness. All of the families there, they got someone who is dying of cancer. They got ear infection, eye infection, stomach infection. Little kids running around with great big running sores on them. That'll be us.
Dozens of others that were arrested served jail time and received heavy fines, like Tsleil-Waututh Nation member Will George, who not only led the watch house that was built on the pipeline route on Burnaby Mountain, but he also suspended himself off the Second Narrows Bridge for 24 hours. He says it's not a matter of if, but when there is a spill, as history has shown us.
Bitumen it sinks to the bottom. You cannot recover it. So there's lots of facades. You look and there's spill response vessels all along the coast. That's a facade. People think, okay, look at they have these vessels, they have a plan, but it's a facade, it's a lie, and it's sinister because you cannot clean this up. It will sink to the bottom, and that's a threat that poses to our sailor seas.
Numerous court cases ensued from First Nations and environmental groups saying the project was too risky for the environment. The court struck down all those cases, clearing a path to move forward for the company. However, rallies have continued. The first Trans Mountain Pipeline was built in 1953 and was considered a monumental engineering feat at the time, traversing over mountains, rivers, creeks, and rough terrain. In June of 2019, the federal government approved the twinning of the pipeline, however, at some points, taking a different route because of modern-day construction, hydro, and roadways. 12 new pump stations were added along the route. 19 more tanks were added to the storage terminals in Edmonton, Sumas, and Burnaby. 3 new berths were built at the Westridge Marine Terminal, increasing the number of tankers in the Broad Inlet to 34 a month. However, what was first estimated to only cost $5 billion has now ballooned to $34 billion, paid by Canadian taxpayers, after the federal government purchased the pipeline in August of 2018. West Coast environmental law lawyer Eugene Kung says it's already a financial loss for Canadians.
So the fees that the pipeline company charges its oil company customers simply don't allow for them to cover even close to the $34 billion price tag. Trans Mountain is currently in front of the Canadian Energy Regulator asking for approval of interim tolls. And the tolls that they've asked for, based on a previously approved tolling methodology, will only recover less than half of the $34 billion project cost.
Despite the federal government owning the pipeline, Kinder Morgan is responsible for building the pipeline. Our request for an interview from Kinder Morgan was not granted by the time this story went to air. In part 2 of this story, we take a closer look at those that support the project and those that continue to fight against it. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Time for one more quick break, but stick around. We're speaking with singer-songwriter Wyatt C Lewis after the break. Welcome back. Here's a look at your current temperatures starting on the East Coast. 21 in Showers in Halifax, 27 in Fredericton. Rain and 13 in Kuujjuaq, 9 in Nain. 21 with rain for Montreal right now, 18 in Val-d'Or. Sun's out and 19 in Sault Ste. Marie, 20 in North Bay. 21 in Thunder Bay, 22 for Sioux Lookout at this hour. Showers and 20 in God's Lake and Norway House. Sunny and 21 in Winnipeg and Dauphin. 24 in Regina, cloudy and 20 in Saskatoon. Showers and 20 in Meadow Lake, rain and 22 in La Ronge. In northern Alberta, 26 with showers for high level in Fort Chipewyan. 22 and rain in Edmonton, 27 with showers for Lethbridge. 20 and rain in Vancouver, showers and 24 in Kamloops. 18 with rain in Prince George, rain and 21 in Smithers. 26 in Old Crow, showers and 26 for Whitehorse. Sun's out and 21 in Yellowknife, 26 with rain in Norman Wells. 14 in Sax Harbor, 20 and sunny in Colville Lake. 10 in Chesterfield and Whale Cove, 7 in Arviat. 5 in Resolute, 8 in Igloo Lake. Music streaming giant Spotify has been amplifying Indigenous musicians in Canada for the month of June as part of Indigenous History Month. Nahio singer-songwriter Wyatt C Lewis, who is based in Treaty 7 territory, has also been named the Radar Ambassador for the month, a global program to support emerging artists. I spoke with Wyatt yesterday. Wyatt, thanks so much for being with us here.
Hey, Dennis. I'm really happy to be here, and thank you so much for your time.
Can you tell us a little bit about your role this month as the Radar Ambassador for Spotify?
Yeah, I'm so fortunate. They reached out. They selected me to be part of June, and June is a very important month for me. For so many reasons, and Indigenous Peoples Day and Indigenous Peoples Month. This past weekend, we got to spend a beautiful weekend with family and friends. I actually eloped with my wonderful partner, and so Pride Month and so many wonderful things to talk about, and I think being an artist, I feel like I'm a vessel. I'm a muse that it's important. To stay updated, and I feel like the music really can speak for itself, and I'm happy to be here and to be talking about music and other things that are so deep to my heart.
Good stuff. Your face was featured on a billboard at Yonge and Dundas in Toronto. Was that a bit of a surreal moment?
It was. It was. I never pictured myself to be up there, but I'm so happy and so proud of those photos. The work I did with Vanessa Hines, wonderful time, and it just really just made so much of the record and completed that part of the the piece for me, and so essential to the record. So it was really fun to celebrate with Vanessa and the team, and yeah, very, very surreal too. It was really cool.
Yeah, no kidding.
Really touching.
Well, your debut album was just released a little over a month ago. Can you tell us about the album?
Yeah, this is my first record. This is my debut album I released with Royal Mountain Records. They're based out of Toronto, and also partnered with Slow Weather on this, and so many good pals, special people in my life that I owe a lot to, and this record that this feels like Mohkinstsis. I lived there for several years. It feels like Calgary, feels like Treaty 7, and the people that make a name for themselves there. I'm so fortunate they, played a part on this record. So it's a record for them. It's a record for my family, and for myself too. I did a lot of, just searching for myself, and being in the studio was so different from what I was used to. Was just being on stage. It's being on stage is such a second home to me, and the studio, working with other people was so fulfilling, but it was really challenging, really good for me.
I was listening to the album this morning. I hope you take this as a great compliment, that it reminded me of Iron and Wine and Sam Beam, and you mentioned the stage. You're about to hit the folk festival circuit, playing Winnipeg Folk Festival, Edmonton, Mariposa, some big festivals for sure. Are you excited about getting out on the road?
Very excited, yeah. We, like I said, we just eloped, my partner and I, and she's with me, Nichimos, she's with me every step of the way, and so getting to travel to these places, back to Winnipeg, back to Treaty 1, getting to rekindle with a lot of artists I admire, doing it with someone special in my life, it makes all worthwhile, and it could be very, very overwhelming, and I'm not used to it. I'm a shy guy in most places, but I feel like it's good to open up and, just to be in those spaces. I feel like, just being confident, knowing that you deserve to be in that spot,
Right on. Okay, I thought you said earlier that you had eloped, so congrats to you and your partner. Wyatt, thanks so much for doing this. Congrats on the album, and good luck out there on the road.
Hey, thanks for your time, Dennis.
You should definitely check out Wyatt's music. That is all the time we have for your first look at your APTN National news today. As we mentioned off the top of the show, Métis media legend Ray St. Germain has passed away at the age of 83. We will have much more on Ray's life and legacy tonight on your APTN National News at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We leave you this afternoon with some of Ray's performance from Indigenous Day Live on June 21st, 2011. Have a great afternoon. I'll see you back here in a couple hours.
Here it is, because I'm a traveling man and I don't give a damn. I'm a traveling man, I've been traveling most of my life. I got a good woman, don't you know that she's a good wife? And there's no rhyme or reason why I ought to be sitting here today. But let me explain it all to you, don't you know this is just my way. Yes, I'm a traveling man and I don't give a damn if you don't like the way that I live. I'm a traveling man in love with just a pair